Welcome to Spirit Speaks on the World Today. I'm Reverend Jim Webb, and for the next hour, you will have an opportunity to ask your questions about Spirit regarding what's going on in the world. I channel, and so I will go out, and Spirit will work through me. The group of beings that I work with are the masters of planetary healing and transformation. And I have been working with this group of beings for over 20 years. Their task is to help us all to heal and transform so that we can, in turn, help the world to heal and transform. So you may notice that as I go out, uh, my eyebrows may jiggle a little. That's because there's so much energy going into my third eye. And that energy is electromagnetic and it runs into the resistance of my seemingly solid body. And that resistance causes a wiggling and it might include a rocking of some sort. So don't worry about that. That's just spirit doing what spirit does to move energy through me. And that energy then takes the form of words. They access my vocabulary, images in my mind, and voice to convey information. So I'll be going out and I'm going to leave you with my producer, Michael Mangus. Hello, Michael.
Well, good evening, Reverend Jim. Good to see you this evening, and also to be with everyone out there. And I know that we'll have another wonderful session here.
Yes. So I'm going to go out and I'll leave you in good hands. Everybody, be well, and I'll see you on the other side. Greetings. It is our honor and pleasure to work with you in this way at this time. We would begin by thanking you for being conduits of light, channels of love, and vessels of healing. So many times you have believed you have needed our guidance and support. But in truth, the opposite is operative. We appreciate you as the souls who have chosen to come to the earth at such a pivotal time. So many of you coming to the earth to heal eons of information, eons of pain, eons of suffering, that your current lives seem to be so challenging. Yet you come because you know that the ultimate purpose is, of course, to heal that which you brought to heal, but also to anchor the new light for a new earth onto this earth plane. And you do so wonderfully. And this is what we appreciate and what we cherish of you in this particular moment. This particular moment is important because the earth cries out for light as it observes some of its deeper self destructive tendencies. What you see playing out in what you call the Middle East is what humans might call Exhibit A for humanity's penchant for self destruction. You see the misery, you see the chaos, you see the risks. We do too. We also see the light of God that is at the ready to heal this and every situation and to mitigate the most self destructive energies of humanity before they germinate into the acts of self destruction counter to the will of humanity. And that is where you come in. As channels of this light, you anchor this light onto the earth so that it might mitigate the most self destructive energies and impulses of humanity before they are made manifest in ways that are counter to the true will of humanity. For humanity is already called out for the healing it desires. Humanity has already accepted this healing. Humanity has already created the way for this healing, and you can help to make it so. So we would ask you, first of all, to take a moment to breathe. And as you breathe, realize that you are the true masters. For you master light while on the earth. It is effortless for us to master light in the realm of light. It is challenging for you to master light while on the darkened and dense plane of earth. So you are the true masters. Take a moment to receive the light we would offer to you now. And breathe. And breathe. And as you breathe, we have been working to orchestrate a special frequency of light, specifically to work with certain principles around your planet regarding both what you call the Middle East and what you call Russia and the Ukraine. We would ask you right now to open to receive this special frequency of light and breathe. And breathe as you become aware of this light, filling your energy field and moving through you. And breathe. And breathe. And you may work with the following thought form as you choose. I will the will of humanity for peace. I will the will of humanity for peace. I will the will of humanity for peace. Just breathe this in and allow the energy and the frequency of this intention to be yours. Feel yourself vibrating with this energy, this intention, and this willingness. I will the will of humanity for peace. I will the will of humanity for peace. I will the will of humanity for peace. Just breathe this in. Just breathe this in and feel your will aligning with humanity's will and God's will for peace. For this will and this declaration of will can overshadow the ego's penchant for self destruction and humanity's penchant for self destruction. It does not replace free will, but it offers the will of humanity an opportunity to align with the majority of humanity's will. So just breathe in the idea I will the will of humanity for peace. Good. Good. Be not invested in how this peace looks. Just imagine now, as you have had access to this frequency of peace, imagine now the world and specifically the two what you call hotspots that we have cited. Imagine now what your world looks like with these aspects at peace. Imagine your peaceful world now. Good. And your bonus is to use the remainder of this energy in your own life experience. And what would your desired peace look like in your life? And just hold this vision and let the energy of light work with this vision to project it out onto the world in the same way that a movie projector shines light through the movie film to project it onto the screen. The energies of these two things are the same. And we would actually ask that you work with a third tranche of this energy, putting it towards your election process in your country. For no matter what happens, there are those who would be disappointed and choose unrest. Let yourself visualize peace instead of mayhem and chaos and uncertainty. Good. Then we would open this session to any questions you might have about any world situation or domestic situation in your country that is of interest to you, where you need a spiritual perspective. We would open this session to questions.
Thank you, Masters. And we have a question from Reverend Jane Batt. And she said, in order to assist the Masters in grounding healing light on the earth now, what are the most effective actions that we can take?
One of the most effective actions you can take, you just did, which is to recognize yourself as a master. You call us the masters, but in truth, each and every one of you is a master, for you have mastered holding such a level of light while in the midst of the darkness and density of the earth plane. And that is true mastery. So, as you know yourself as a master, and as you open to the energy of healing as you have done, and you allow this energy to flow to you and through you as you have done, and as you direct this energy to where it is needed on the earth plane as you have done, as you replicate this over and over as a part of your spiritual practice, you actually, in human terms, move the needle from war to peace. For as we see it in this moment, there are two competing energies in an energetic tug of war. The most obvious energy is the energy of division and grievance and hatred and fear and lashing out in fear in order to protect one's self from what one fears. And Israel is in this state of energy, grievance and fear and lashing out in self protection and out of pain and out of fear. This is not unlike all of humanity. For when humanity feels separated from God's light, it fears that it will not get what it needs to survive. This is a primal fear of the human energy. And when this primal fear occurs, it acts out in ways that are quite destructive and that are ultimately self destructive. For the energy of darkness that does not believe it will have what it needs to survive believes that it will be destroyed. And destructive energy creates or manifests destructive actions and destructive outcomes. And that is why this energy is so self destructive. So when you shine the light on this self destructive energy, this energy receives what it believes it needs. It needs light, it needs God, it needs grace, it needs holiness, it needs peace, and it believes these things are outside of itself in an external God. So when you open to receive this light, that is in truth your birthright as the light of God, and you anchor this light on the earth, others can become aware of it and receive it. So when you do the exercise that we have suggested that you conduct over and over again as a part of your spiritual practice, especially over the next 5 days, as you do so, you bring light and love to the heart of Israel. And you bring light and love to the heart of the Gaza Strip. And you bring light and love to Lebanon. And this light can help to mitigate the self destructive energies that you see forming right now, that you see having the risk of escalation. So, this is one energy that can receive this light, for it is in darkness. There is another energy that is the heart and hope of humanity for peace and harmony. And that heart and hope of humanity and that energy current is actually stronger than that which you see. However, the it must await what you would call the playing out of these more destructive energies in order that it might blanket over this region in the same way that a fire retardant blanket might blanket over a an oven fire. So you're activating this energy and being a conduit for more of it can only help this experience. So that the latter energy of peace and harmony would be made manifest and that the former energy would be mitigated. And this is what you can do at this time. Will the situation escalate? There are so many wills and so many energies involved. And there is, of course, the free will of humanity. Largely, humanity is saying enough is enough is enough. How many more times do we have to see this play out? But then there is the human ego that is in control to some degree, and it must be convinced. And so your light can help convince the collective human ego that it has had enough of self destructive energies and acts. And this is what you can do. Take a moment to take this in. And we would then open this session to another question, if there is another question.
Yes, Masters, there are. And the next question is from Felicia. And she says, will the major revelations and downfalls of celebrities that's happening now in Hollywood have any connection to our election? It seems to be far reaching.
Yes, we would work with this. The larger trend is ultimately a trend of human empowerment. Now, humans have at times deified celebrities, whether they be in your country hip hop moguls or sports players or sports players around the world. And this is a part of humans' tendency to admire accomplishment. This is not something to be judged, simply something to observe. Now, this human tendency to admire accomplishment and thus deify these beings in an imbalance creates a contrast between what you might call normal, regular people, and the people on pedestals. However, what is occurring now is that certain people on pedestals are being deposed from those pedestals. And this is a result of a certain rebalancing where humans realize their own light, their own potential, their own inner stardom. And that is why certain of these scandals come out and certain things done in darkness come out in the light. It is also, of course, a part of the new light that touches the earth. We are seeing that the light that shines in the darker corners of human consciousness that you see being reflected in certain scandals, this light is relentless. And there will be more things that come to light in your election cycle just when you think it couldn't be more like a soap opera. So there are other things that we see are likely to be revealed that will affect to some degree the elections. We One of the things most likely to occur as we see it, there may be more revelations about a certain candidate and how this candidate really feels about certain subgroups of Americans. You would call this caught on tape. There may be, as we see it, more coming out about how a certain candidate really feels about subgroups of Americans, certain subgroups, as if this is not already apparent. And certain conversations will continue to place a certain candidate's mental stability into question. And there is likely to be more revealed here. And that is what we see. So, in summary, we see the light that brings that which is done in darkness to light will affect your political systems indirectly, in that the same light that is shining on certain Hollywood celebrities at this time is the light that shines on certain political candidates, bringing more of a certain political candidate's human foibles to light. And this is what we would say.
Thank you, Masters. We have another question here from Barbie. And she's asking what will happen to the trajectory of the architects and the supporters of Project 2025 if their candidate does not win?
We would work with this. We find in the channel's consciousness the image of food that is too salty for consumption. The thing that you cite, Project 2025, is similar to a meal, a dish, an entree that is too salty for consumption. So these ideas are being and shall be rejected by your fellow American citizens politically. The beings who have a vision of such a country as depicted in these ideas will retreat and will choose certain elements that of this larger initiative that seem more palatable and try to weave them into certain conversations. You see, there is what you might call a media ecosystem where certain ideas that at first might seem outlandish, ridiculous, impossible, infeasible get dropped into conversation in a certain corner of the media ecosphere. And eventually, that which seemed outlandish is discussed, initially as outlandish, but little by little, the saltiness is taken out of it. As it is discussed more and more, it seems to become normalized. And when it is accepted to some degree as normal, it is less abhorrent in a certain media ecosystem with in a certain media echo chamber. So this aspects of these initiatives will continue to salt the political discussion and conversation in one set of media chambers, but we see that largely the the effects will be neutered because the same light that we have discussed before, shining in places, bringing to light that which has been done in darkness, that same light will continue to shine on this and remind Americans that these ideas are too salty for consumption. And this is what we would say here.
Thank you again. And I'm going to combine a question from Barbie and also from Jenny, as reflected in her question. It says, are there any recommendations for dealing with the tension caused by family and friends on a different political spectrum? They have been one issue and anti abortion voters and can't see beyond that.
We would work with this. As we look into situations such as this, the cliche in your country is the discussion that happens over the Thanksgiving meal that inevitably goes to politics and inevitably causes dissension. This is the cliche that we see happening in your country. Now, the key for you is to hold your light. And what we mean is as follows: you have your vision, you have your intention, you have your point of view, you have your conviction, you have your energy, you have your desire, you have your preferences, you have your vote. This is your light. This is your right. Others have the same. Quite often, another family member will send signals that indicate to you, I am unteachable. There is no new information that can cause me to change my mind. An individual might be, for example, an individual might be presented with the unintended consequences of certain laws, deaths, injury, and permanent damage caused to people as unintended consequences of certain laws. Yet they are unmoved. Your first task is to gauge intuitively and in conversation how teachable certain beings are, how open they might be to new information. And it might be presented in the form of, if certain situations had unintended consequences, is does that does that soften the absolute posture here? Now, this is a brief exercise because if they are not open to new information, then you need not waste the energy. At that point, hold your energy. If asked, you can state what you believe, what you see, what you experience, what you know, and you can state your light and your conviction, not in an effort to feel superior or anything like that, but simply to say, this is my light. And once that is complete, your involvement in any conversation is complete because the person has proved themselves unyielding, and so there is no more energy to be wasted here except to state your light. And so, in stating your light, it is also important for you to stay in your light. Do not feel rattled or threatened or in any way diminished because another has a differing opinion from yours. State your light and stay in your light. And this is how you can address it with a brief exploration of whether this another being is open to another point of view. And this is what we would say here.
Once again, thank you, Masters. And also, Jean Bett has a question here. She says, could you give an overview of the U.S. election status as of now? The contrast could not be more dramatic, and I wish there could be an undeniable outcome in spite of the Electoral College.
Yes, we would work with this. As we see this process in this moment, for this moment is simply a snapshot in the progression of what you call time, But as we see the this situation in this moment, we see one candidate moving forward in popularity and or in a voting preference, slowly, gradually, but clearly. At this time, in this time, we do not see that momentum stalling. We are seeing campaign strategists playing chess. This imagery indicates that these strategists are working real time with how to deploy resources, where to deploy resources, and which groups to target for persuasion resources. As we see it now, the strategists are focusing on most aggressively on the state of Pennsylvania, the state of North Carolina, and of course, the state of Nevada. There are resources being given to the state of Arizona and the state of Georgia. We see that by mid October, certain decisions will be made to perhaps either contract or expand the locus of attention. This is the strategy we see for one candidate. The other candidate, we see having less resources, less focus, and we find in the channel's consciousness the phrase spiraling out of control. The opposing candidate sees a certain waywardness and a certain chaotic nature to the opposing candidate and waits to see how destructive this candidate's actions and words will be and how ineffective this candidate's strategies will be over the next 15 days before making any other major moves. So we find the phrase in the channel's consciousness spinning out of control. So one candidate is watching the other candidate to see how destructive they become and will continue to execute a strategy that is very clear-eyed and deliberate based on another candidate's actions and tendencies for self sabotage and self destruction. Now, there are certain, as we may have stated before, there are certain what we would call energy waves that are not being fully reflected in what you call certain polling at this time. One energy wave that is not being reflected in polling at this time is the energy wave of the youth vote, especially the vote of young women. Many in this demographic have been less participatory, some now just coming of age. But we see a certain candidate capitalizing on this in terms of motivation on college campuses in certain states with large concentrations of colleges. And we see this working to that candidate's advantage. And we see those, what you call numbers, being somewhat eye popping. In some cases, almost doubling the participation rate of certain demographics in certain areas, such as college aged women. And this will have an impact. On the other hand, we find in the channel's consciousness someone turning off a treadmill, being fatigued, and stepping off the treadmill. There is a candidate that some are viewing, and those viewing, some are tired. They want to turn the treadmill off, step off the treadmill. Exhaustion. So a certain candidate has exhausted certain potential voters. And this actually depresses participation of certain voters who might have had a propensity to vote for this candidate. These are the dynamics that we see occurring right now in this moment. And this is what we would say about the current state of the race. We would also ask you to, as you consume media, notice the media's efforts to keep reporting this as a horse race and to keep highlighting certain points of data and ignoring the overarching trend that leans in one direction. Note that that is their job. For their job is to engage consumers, and that is what engages consumers. But be not overly worried or despondent as trends follow one path and the media follows another to, quote, keep it interesting. And ultimately maintain the highest perspective that the greatest good for all is inevitable, regardless of the outcome. And understand that what you did earlier this evening, this afternoon, in terms of concentrating light on the more destructive aspects of human consciousness helps those self destructive energies to dissolve before they can be made manifest. And you may have peace and comfort in this as well. This is what we would say to you here.
Thank you, Masters. We are out of Earth time. Do you have any parting words for us this evening?
Also, remember to maintain the truth that you are safe in the light of God, regardless of what occurs outside of you. We see that there are many in your country and in your world that dread an escalation of certain world situations. And your task, again, is to open to the light of God that wills peace in alignment with the will of the vast majority of humanity. That this peace might come as this light touches the heart of those who are in conflict. Know that you are important to God as channels of this light, as bringers of this peace. Be blessed and in God forever. Hey, Michael.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey,
Hey.
how you
All right.
doing?
Do we have, oh, good. Do you have any thing to tell us this evening?
Oh, well, after another little nap, I'm going to be doing a class tonight called Spirit Speaks. That name sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? But this is Spirit Speaks on past lives and future lives. It's actually healing soul trauma. So we brought a lot of trauma into this life in order that we might heal it. And Spirit will go to each person and they will get to ask questions, and Spirit will work with them to heal the past life trauma that they brought into this life so that they can instead have a life of joy. And that's what we're doing tonight at 7:30. I keep a couple of positions open for walk-ins. If you want to be a walk-in and take this class as a drop-in, you can text me at 202-253-6009, and I'll let you know how we can arrange that. So that's what I'm doing tonight. And on Thursday night, we've got deepening your connection with Spirit. And that helps you to hear Spirit, feel Spirit, see Spirit, know Spirit, deepen your connection with Spirit. It's a practicum where I lead and guide people into exercises that open them intuitively in a safe and comfortable way. There's opportunities for a drop-ins there as well. So if you have an interest in dropping in on that class, there's the number. And I want to thank everybody once again for supporting the book, Forgive Your Way to Prosperity. We actually did it. We made it a number one new release in its category. Thank you, everyone. And if you've not had a chance to check it out, please check it out. Check it out for you, and you can also gift it to others. It's a wonderful way for you to find more peace in your relationships and to find peace that allows more prosperity, more of your well being in many aspects of your life. Forgive your way to prosperity. The more you forgive, the more prosperous you can become. And that's what the book is about. And it has a new way of looking at forgiveness based on guidance that I've received from the masters. So that's what I've got going on. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And let's thank you, Michael, for being such a wonderful
Oh,
conductor.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you, and thank you to everyone, and uh, to everyone. Have a great week. Reverend Jim Webb, do you have any parting words for us?
Just goodbye. Everyone, have a nice night.